Okay, so uh, I went on I just went on my girlfriend's Facebook to like check it, like just to look, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So I went there, and nothing really going on interesting until I hit this guy named Danny Myers. Okay, I knew the guy. It's her dad's friend, best friend or whatever. She addresses him as her uncle. Okay, and I'm just reading. Everything's fine until I get to about a week, and I'm reading it. It's getting kind of like I don't know. I want to say like sexual, like with what he's saying. Like he's just saying shit, right? Like I don't want to get too deep into it. Okay, like this pedophile shit, right? Okay. So
Yeah.
I tell her mom about it. She fucking blows up. She's pissed. She's like, "Thank you for telling me this and that and that." Okay. So my girlfriend calls me. She says, "Hey, just calling you to tell you about the whole messaging on Facebook thing. Like, he's like an uncle to me, and he hasn't done anything to me, and all this and that, right?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm chill. I'm fine." She hangs up. We're done talking. Okay. So like an hour go by. So I call her back, and I'm like, "Hey, so so what the fuck is going on? Like, has he done anything to you?" And she's like, "No, he hasn't done anything, and he's just like that. Like, he's always been like that, and it's just how he is, right?" So, like, it's kind of like she's brainwashed, or she's kind of like, it's covered up, like, where she just doesn't realize it. You know what I mean? Okay. So, we're,
Yeah.
we're talking about it, right? And she just kind of gets mad, like, to where, like, no, she doesn't really get mad. I kind of get mad. So like I'm talking to her, I'm like, so you think it's fine for this guy to say that all this and that and stuff like that? And she's like, well, yeah. And I just like start getting pissed. So I'm like, hey, let me talk to your dad and shit, okay? So I talk to him and I'm like, so what's going on? Like, why does he talk to this like her? He's like, well, he's always been like this, and like nothing's happening. And I mean, if something was happening, like I would get to the bottom of it and get it figured out and make it end. I'm like, okay, so you saying that, you're kind of concluding that something might happen, but when it does, you're gonna solve it, right? That kind of seems pretty fucked up. So I address to him
Should
saying,
be preemptive.
yeah. So I say to him, I'm like, okay, so first off, what's a good outcome from a fucking 40-year-old guy talking to a fucking girl that's in high school like that? What is the good outcome? There's no good outcome from that, and it shouldn't be happening. And he basically restates what he stated before. Then he brings up that, well, I'm getting tired of my daughter coming home every day depressed and all this and that about how you did this to her. And I'm like, dude, let's first off, let's keep the topic on the thing. But yeah, you know what? We'll talk about this right now so you understand. I said, we are in a relationship. I know you haven't been in many relationships because, look at you. But I'm like, we're trying to work this out so we can better ourselves as a whole. And he's like, well, yeah, but you don't need to make her depressed. And I said, it's not me. Well, it's not me that makes her depressed. It's how she takes what I say that makes her depressed. I'm not trying to make her depressed because there's no reason to do that. I'm just saying things that, yeah, it might make you depressed because it's things that you have to think about to fix a relationship, okay? So we get done talking about that. And we start talking about back to the thing where the guy talking to her on Facebook, right? He's like 40 years old. And I'm just like, they just, this doesn't need to be happening. And I'm like, the only reason I'm talking to you is because I care about your daughter and I don't want things to happen. Okay? So he gets done talking to me. She comes back with the phone. And I say, hey, uh, so about this whole thing here with you, so you're just gonna let him do that? Like, you're fine with that? And she's like, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, something needs to stop. Like, this needs to stop. And she's like, well, he's been doing it for so long, this, that. Okay. So I'm like, so you're telling me you can't tell him to stop? That you like it and you don't care? And, like, I was kind of talking quite a bit, but not to the point where I couldn't let her talk. But then she brings up the point saying, well, I was going to say that I didn't like it and I didn't want him to do it anymore, but you kept on talking so I couldn't say it. I'm like, you said about 3 or 4 times that you didn't care, and all in them times you could have said that you didn't want him to be saying that. She's like, well, you were talking so much. I'm like, the only reason you're saying that now is because I gave you what I told you what I wanted to hear from you. And she's like, well, she doesn't say anything, right? So I ask her, I'm like, hey, so don't let's forget about that. So what are we gonna do about you with other people talking if you're gonna let a 40-year-old guy say this shit to you and you're not gonna tell him to stop? I mean, that's fucking weird. But what am I supposed to think? A 16-year-old guy or whatever guy of her age starts talking to her like that, but she can't tell a 40-year-old guy? What makes me think or trust that you're going to tell that guy to stop? Right? So she basically she
Oh,
didn't
fuck.
say
There's a
anything.
PK somewhere nearby.
She didn't say anything, and then she says, I think I say again, I'm like, so what are you gonna do about it? And like she basically told me what I wanted to hear after I told her what I wanted to hear, right? Okay, so we start talking a little bit deeper into it, and I pop the question in again. I'm like, hey, so what are we gonna do to fix this? And like she just was like, well, and like start thinking, and I'm like, come on, I told you so many things that you could say to me that I wanted to hear, and she's like, well, I guess I'll just talk to girls and not talk to guys. I'm like, what the fuck? That was the opposite of what I wanted her to say. You know, like it's like one in one ear and out the other. Like, come on. You know.
Yeah.
So like, how am I? Like, I tell her not to talk to these guys because I know they have intentions with her. But like, come on. Like, I know I shouldn't tell her who or what she can talk to. I shouldn't be able to tell her what she can or can't talk to. But like, what am I supposed to do? I have no reason to trust her or not to trust her. Like I'm basically fucked, and I don't know if I'm wasting my time. Like, I really care for her a lot. You know, I just don't want to see her fucking go through that shit. I don't know what to do.